Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Score podcast. Couple weeks we were on our little recess, let's call it, where we had a lot of things going on our end, and we are back in action. We took a little recess, and we're here recording away. I was moving. Josh was in Disney. We had a lot going on. We have lives, and so I'm sorry for all our fans that were very upset that they did not get an episode last week. We are here. Don't worry. We didn't go anywhere. And we're going to bring you guys a lot of stuff, a lot of things to uncover. And I missed you, Josh. It was a couple of weeks, and it felt like a couple of years, honestly, without recording with you on the other side over there.
Yeah, I was starting to get the itch around once 6 o'clock last Wednesday hit. I was itching. I was feeling once we found out that we weren't doing it, that I was getting the itch. Like, man, this is what I like to do. Obviously, because we do it. And but yeah, Disney came to Florida. Um, didn't get too much of that. The beautiful sun that you hype up all the time. Got a couple hours a day, but like to wake up and feel like I'm in New York. I felt like you were kind of pitching me that I was gonna expect sun the whole time, but it's all good. I forgive you.
Well, listen, the state of Florida is a large one, and you were about 4 hours north of the Florida that I know. And so it's like being in New York. It's like you're in Long Island versus being in Albany. Not the same. It's definitely a little colder up there, and they definitely get a few more inches of snow
Yeah,
than the island does. But I'm certain it was still overall nice weather. I'm certain it was still good Josh weather, because Josh
that's
likes to
that's so good.
in the middle of the winter likes to go outside with shorts and sandals on, because why not? Right?
Yeah, the
I mean,
sandals are optional. The
sandals.
sandals are optional, but the shorts are pretty much guaranteed. Um,
Yeah.
you'll catch me outside like 1 a.m. remembering that I need to take the garbage out with Um, if there's snow on the ground, there will probably be something on my feet, but otherwise, even if it's like 30 degrees, I'll be shorts, barefoot, and sometimes there won't even be a shirt there because I'll just be trying to get in and get out. And I don't really want to deal with all that bundling up because by the time I get bundled up, I'll be getting sweaty and then I'll be back in the warm.
Well, listen, we could talk about the snow. We could talk a lot about, sweaty feet a lot, but I don't think that's what our viewers want to hear. I think the viewers want to hear some sports talk. And let's get
Or
right into it with that. The NBA is it's tightening up. I mean, we have an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference that's starting to shape up. Roughly 20 plus games remaining for the regular season, and we're gonna kind of check out the landscape of the NBA. We're gonna go from some teams here and kind of see what's been happening, and particularly recently, unfortunately, a major injury that took place in Dallas. Kyrie Irving tears his ACL, and it kind of shakes up their whole season. They had this expectation after this Luka trade that they were going to have this powerhouse team with Kyrie and AD, and it's unfortunately not going to play out. They played only half a game together so far,
wow,
and whatever we're going to have remaining is going to happen next season. Luckily for the Mavs, they have both of those players under contract at least, and so this season's kind of going to be a wash for those Mavericks, who are right now not even good in a playoff spot. I think they've fallen as far as the 10 seed, and right now without Kyrie Irving, the season looks very grim. And obviously AD is not playing right now, so it looks like there's probably gonna be a lot of shifting happening in Dallas. Probably some of those teams in the bottom half of that Western Conference see that as an opening for them to maybe get in. Right, San Antonio, even with an injury like Wemby, they might say, well, we can get somewhere with Vassell and De'Aaron Fox. So the Mavericks, it's unfortunate. I mean, a couple of weeks ago they were like the 4 or 5 seed, and now they've fallen all the way to 10, and looks like they're going to keep falling. Uh, don't really know what to say in regards to what's going to be good for them coming up in the near future. I mean, it's really grim for these Mavs fans. I really do feel for them after a Luka trade like this, and you lose Kyrie and whatever you're rebounding coming back from, the Luka trade, where you're like, well, we at least got AD, and now we have this really good duo here. It's not even playing out right now, so I feel bad for these Mavs fans. I really do.
yeah, it's hysterical because their record right now would have them as the 7th seed in the East. So even with the falling, they would still be among the better teams in that conference. But they got the Suns and Portland on their tails, which nobody thought that Portland would be that team that they're trying to make a run. Not saying that they're going to really do anything at 28 and 34, which would still be the 10 seed in the East, which is crazy. But the everyone knows the East is very top heavy, and the West is the top strong, the middle's pretty tough, and then the bottom is terrible. Like the very bottom is terrible. But to the Mavs, I mean, ever since the Luka trade, it just seems like the vibe around them was people not wanting, almost not wanting to see them do well, not wanting to support them. But when it comes down to it, Anthony Davis, he got hurt the first game, but when he has played, he's looked like he's passionate about being on the team that traded for him, that wanted to keep him. So I don't really think that that's something that the fans will be able to recover from for a while. But I do think that the Mavericks have a really tough, because if you're rebuilding, you want to be like the number one pick. You won't want to be a fringe playoff team and be directionless. I feel like that's kind of what the Marlins did for a while, just for a comparison. And then their division got better, so they fell even further behind. But I think that you look at the Mavericks as, what do we do now? Kyrie blew his knee out. 80 is 80 with his injuries, although with load management, I don't really know if that's such a big deal because of the amount of games other stars missed anyway. But it's just nice to be in control of that. And overall for the Mavs, it's a very, like you said, a very bleak time, and it's a time for the league to, not the league, it's time for the fans to really rally together, because they have some players that, if the crowd could get behind them, it could be a tough game to come into there. But the fans are literally the furthest thing from supporting the team right now.
And it's so sad to see. I mean, when Kyrie got hurt, you saw him take those free throws because if there was any hope of him returning to that game, you don't know what the scope of the injury is at that point. He gets to the free throw line and you hear him mouth, "Thank you, God." And you just feel for him in that moment. And obviously for me, especially, being a Cavs fan where, he was a very important part of a championship that hadn't been brought to that city in 52 years. You feel for him, and then he limps off the court. You see Anthony Davis, who's, like we said, has only played half a game with him, help him off the court there, and you just see that draining feeling of that franchise just go right out the window. And a team like Portland's probably on the cusp of breaking through potentially, because at 28 and 34, they're probably one of the best teams over the last 3 weeks in the Western Conference. I think they're like 13 and 5 over their last 18 games, or roughly like that. So they're definitely on the rise. But just you feel for Kyrie as an individual, because you know how gifted he is. And yes, there's been a lot of bad publicity around him over the past, but it seemed like Dallas, he really found a home, and they obviously made it to the finals last season. He was a big part of that. So you feel for them. You feel for Anthony Davis, who just came to this team and was hoping for a new star, where he's got this other great superstar there, and they're going to lead this franchise to potentially another championship that they haven't seen in almost 15 years. That won't be happening. These two guys are, in their 30s. Kyrie's in his middle 30s. He's going to be 35, and he's not going to be obviously ready for the start of next season. So this is a really big, eye-opening moment for this franchise. And obviously, every decision that they've made comes into play here. Trading Luka comes into play here, right? Was that the right move, considering now Kyrie's out, Anthony Davis is out, your franchise is in shambles? We'll have to see what happens with this Dallas Mavericks team and these fans that basically, like you said, have checked out. And on the other side here, and we'll head right into the other team, because it involves, Luka and this trade from Anthony Davis. The Lakers on the other side, they seem like they're reaping a lot of benefits. Obviously, being the number 2 seed in the Western Conference right now is probably not what a lot of people had expected them to be at this point, and they're exceeding expectations. You have a 40-year-old LeBron who's playing like he's 20, and you have Luka Doncic, who said, "Oh, you called me fat? Well, I'll show you." And that game against the Mavericks was probably one of the most incredible NBA games, because of what it meant, and because Nico Harrison was sitting in that crowd, and because Luka Doncic put on a show and they won that game. the Lakers are in a good spot to make some real noise in the Western Conference. I'm not personally not be real believers in them just because I don't really like where their roster sits right now. But I'll let you kind of get into that, and we'll go back and forth a little bit on the Lakers here. Luka and LeBron is a phenomenal duo, and they're number two in the West. That's all that you could say. That's what the numbers show right now.
Yeah, and I think that Mark Williams trade would have made me a believer in them, and of course, I kudos to the league for not doing anything to streamline it or bend the rules for anybody, which it might have sounded like we were leading that was going to happen, but it just always seems like things break the Lakers' way. So it was nice to see that. It was unfortunate, but you don't wait till the last second if you don't want to take that chance. But when it comes down to it, the Lakers after this offseason, if they put the right pieces in, they're going to be extremely scary. But for this year, I think they're just going to be ticket selling, seeing Luka and LeBron together, especially Luka, LeBron playing at the numbers along with the MVP he won in Miami. That it's amazing, and you don't know after an offseason at 40 years old as an NBA player, that offseason of not, I mean, he works hard clearly, but that much time away from doing it, you don't know if production will go down. I mean, I'm not going to bet against him, but I think that eventually Father Time catches up one way or another, even if inside him he just knows I don't feel the same and I don't want to go out as anything but the greatest. So I'm gonna wave the flag or something that you don't want to put an injury or anything into the air, but just I think the point is people are trying to soak this up because it's a beautiful marriage between them, their games, and I think that in the West there are a couple teams that are built better to sustain a series, but I don't wouldn't be surprised if they really do some damage as the regular season closes out. Other teams are kind of setting up where they're looking to be, and they're looking to get their chemistry, and they're going to sell a lot of tickets, and people are going to get very excited. But then when the series comes around, it's going to be Luka and LeBron, which are two of the league's best players. But then after that, you get one of them to get into a couple fouls. Then what do you do? Or you're the Thunder and you're a better constructed team. You're the Timberwolves figure it out and get going again. I still think that their trade was terrible, but I think by the playoffs, as long as they make it into the real field, which I don't know where they stand in the landscape exactly, but as long as they make it into the real field, I think that they're a threat to anyone. I think that overall, the Lakers are fun. The Lakers are a good team, but I think that this offseason is going to be where they could potentially become a threat to the Thunder.
Well, so you nailed it on the on the coffin here with the what do you call it, the dart on the coffin, the what do you call
Nail in
that?
the
Nail
coffin.
on the head.
Nail on the head.
Nail.
You nailed the nail on the head when you said that they're ticket sales and they're going to win games, but the playoffs in the NBA is a completely different landscape because you're not playing one game now, you're playing a series. And they don't stack up against some of these teams because they don't have someone who's going to stack up in the front to guard the rim. They do have other guys other than LeBron. I will say other than LeBron and Luka, Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, Rui Hachimura, they have some pieces here that can definitely do some good things. But overall, when you look at it and you're going to go stack up against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle, or an Oklahoma City Thunder, who have Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, it's not going to be easy to win 4 out of 7. And I don't think that's possible. And to be honest with you, they're a number 2 seed because they have that star power where they're able to win games and kind of put teams out of their misery early on and blow them out of the water. But that's not going to happen in 7 game series against a playoff team. And I could see them getting bounced earlier than we expect, actually, because when you have nobody in the front to guard you, it's going to be a big problem. So the
And I
Lakers,
almost
with the money, LeBron's going to be getting $56 million next season if he wanted to. He's got a player option. Is he going to accept it, or is he going to make that decision, like you said? Does he still have the passion to keep going? Does he still want to do this? Does it make sense for him to go put his body on the line every single night and play, 60 plus games to get bounced in the second round?
yeah,
Is it worth it? The guy's making hundreds of millions of dollars outside of the NBA. Does he really need
yeah.
that $60 million at this point? Does he need those accolades at this point? we were considering talking about the fact that he has now a total of 50,000 overall points, whatever. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's playing averaging 25 points per game his whole career. It's going to happen when
Yeah,
the numbers 25 points per game over 40 years and you play, at least 65 games a year. That's what's going to happen.
yeah,
So, the Lakers look great on paper. Luka, LeBron, phenomenal. But the goal of the Lakers is build around Luka, and whatever happens in the short term with LeBron will happen, and you go from there. The Lakers are set building around their superstar Luka Doncic, and now
yeah,
LeBron's kind of taking the back seat, which he's fine with at least for the short term to try to get them as far as they can this season, and ultimately LeBron can get his fifth ring, which he would love to get, but I
yeah,
think we can both agree that that might not be his number one thing anymore when it comes to playing this game.
yeah. 100% agreed. I think that he I think that he looks at his legacy, and 50,000 points is great, but it's more of a testament to
Total points,
how
total points.
no, that's what
Clarify.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. 50,000 points in total is it's amazing, but it's more of a testament to longevity than that number, because it's not like it's not like everyone's sticking around that long. And I don't want to take anything away from him, and I know you're the biggest LeBron fan I know, so it's nothing like that, but just it's not really something that you say, "Oh wow, LeBron's total hit 50K. He's still going to go for another 5 years." Like, it doesn't work like that. And I think that um, well, just when you look at the landscape of the league, the young guns are coming, and LeBron sees that, and if his team doesn't see fit, I mean, he could basketball is all he knows, so he might give it that one more year, but then you might get a year from him where he's protecting his body, and he's making sure that he's preparing for a playoff run. And but I don't know, it's a fascinating dynamic, and I think that we could kind of put a bow on the Lakers to say, if we get one full year of LeBron and Luca, and they actually play them 60-65 games together, I think it'll be an equivalent of a type of thing that we got to enjoy watching Juan Soto and Aaron Judge with the Yankees, just totally working together, being the fuel, and really doing special things. I mean, but it doesn't mean that they're going to win the finals, just like the Yankees didn't win the World Series, but they they broke through to do something that they haven't done in a while. Uh, gave the fan base um, gave the fan base a dynamic to have that passion and see the Yankees in the final series. And I feel like the Lakers fans are kind of, I know they have the bubble championship, but a lot of people look at that as illegitimate, which I think if you win the championship, you win the championship. It's legitimate, but because every other team was in the bubble too. But I think these fans want to go to those games. They want to see the Lakers, the fanfare, everything that comes with the finals, and even the conference finals. And I think that the conference finals could be on the docket if they build a team around those two.
Whatever happens, I know that we'll definitely know. LeBron will let everyone know that this is his final season. So whether that's this offseason, he says this is my last season, he's going to prepare everyone for his final season. And we'll cherish those moments, the final year that LeBron plays, because we know that we won't see that greatness ever again. And he'll ride off into the sunset as the greatness that he is, and the superstar that he was. So all the love for LeBron. um, you did play for another team that won a couple of championships for those Miami Heat, and I'm certain they're going to be very appreciative when the time comes to salute you off, because four finals appearances, two championships, it's not an easy thing. Looking now at these Miami Heat, who really have an identity crisis in that Eastern Conference since the departures of that Big Three era. You know, they had a Jimmy Butler who took them to two finals, wasn't able to win it all. And then you get into this season where it just becomes an absolute disaster for this organization, losing their superstar because of a dilemma between him and the president of basketball operations, Pat Riley, sees him go to another team in the Western Conference. I mean, what do the Heat really have to play for this season to prove that they can get it done without Jimmy Butler? The truth is, they did get a decent return. I believe they did get a really nice package, including Andrew Wiggins, who is a very sound and solid forward player. Give you about 15 to 18 a game, solid defense, solid shooting, efficient, and just a team player, and who's won a championship with Steph Curry. So there's a lot of value in having someone like Andrew Wiggins playing on a
For
team
sure.
that has a bunch of also really good players, borderline all stars like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, who actually was an all star at one point in his career, and also was on the Team USA team. So you have some really good players there, but right now they're in the bottom half of that Eastern Conference, and the only reason I can say that they're even hovering at this point is because of the fact that the teams that are 10, 11, 12 in the Eastern Conference truly want to be 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah,
So even a
totally.
team like the 10 seeded Chicago Bulls, they are trying to tank. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for the rest of the Eastern Conference in the bottom half, they're just so bad too that they keep losing. And the Bulls are like, well, we're sitting in this 10 seed here and nobody's coming to take it. I mean, the Miami Heat are a little higher than them, but there's really nothing that says to me this Miami Heat team has something to play for,
Yeah.
because they really need to get someone in that door that's going to be able to lead that organization into the promised land. They have a bunch of really talented guys, like I said, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, now Andrew Wiggins. But other than that, they don't have the firepower to make them, a long playoff run. Maybe you get bounced even in the play-in tournament here. Truly, this Heat team, since the departures of that big three, have really and I don't want to discredit their finals appearances. That's the last thing I really want to do.
Mhm.
But man, oh man, did they get through some pretty easy Eastern conferences. And
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler put that team on his shoulders and said, "We're going to the finals," and he led them there. But I really can't sit here and say I was astonished by the competition level in the Eastern Conference those years when they made it. One of those was that bubble year and they lost to the Lakers. And the other one was a couple of years ago when they lost to the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. So now they're really in a shambles scenario. So I'll let you kind of get into a little bit with the Miami Heat here, but I don't see them making it farther than locking in a play-in seed just because this
Yeah.
bottom half is so poop, and then losing to maybe like an Atlanta Hawks team or an Orlando Magic team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was the most Miami Heat thing to get Andrew Wiggins, Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and Lindy Waters. Those are all Miami Heat role player guys, but now they don't have. I mean, they need Tyler Hero to have developed that dog side of him to another level and carry them, because I don't really think that you could expect more from Duncan Robinson than what you're getting. You could expect more from. I mean, they just rotate these role players out and that fit. I mean, they have Kalel. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Where, and he's good, but he's another center. So if they want to play big, they can do that. But they're not going to overwhelm you in any facet of the game. So I just think that the Eastern Conference play-in tournament is not going to be watchable. I mean, obviously the players on the court will want to win, but I think that the fans, it's going to be a weird vibe. And as much as I say that, it could be cool to see one of these teams that might have been tanking make a little run. But when you look at the top four in the East, it's pretty hard to imagine any of the playing teams
But
getting at that. I mean, yeah, you if you do it to say you could do it without Jimmy Butler, I feel like there should have been another move made. Andrew Wiggins is pretty cool. I wouldn't say that him and Jimmy Butler are that far apart in the first three quarters, but just when it comes to the fourth quarter, there's just something about Jimmy Butler when he gets in the game
playoff Jimmy.
that exactly, it makes everyone around him better, and not many players have that in them. And to put him alongside Steph Curry, I know that we're talking about the Heat right now, but that was something that the Heat had to do to get their package, and I don't really think that the Heat are in neutral right now, and they don't really know what to do, and that's a terrible place to be. And we were just talking about that about the Mavs, and they're kind of a good comp, except one the player forced the trade, and one the player was totally blindsided by the trade. But those are probably East and West comps of each other, and I feel like I'd rather be like a Jazz fan right now, because every game you're watching, you're looking to see what these young guys can do and who's going to stick around. and who to get on board with.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's why the process of being a fan is so great. Is being a Cavs fan, you watch the bad, you watch the good, and you're a Thunder fan. You've had that too, and it's an experience because you learn a lot about your franchise and your team and what direction they should be going and where they will be going. When it comes to the Heat, they're sitting at the 7th seed right now, and they have a 5 game differential between the 6th and the 7th seed, and so there's no way they're getting into the playoff guarantee. They're going to be in that play-in. Now, the difference between them and Orlando at the 8th seed is only a game and a half. And
Yeah.
so I think if that swaps, right, and we get 7-8 and we have Orlando Miami where they play in Orlando, Orlando's going to win that game. They're going to get 7th seed. Then
Yeah.
Miami is going to get home court against the 9-10 seed, which would be Atlanta or Chicago. Now, I think they beat the Bulls. I think anyone who plays the Bulls will most likely beat them. Atlanta, I think Atlanta beats them. And so the only path for them to even get to an 8th seed, and that's even if they stay in the top 2 of the play-in, is if they lose to Orlando, which they will, and then they get the Chicago Bulls. If they play the Chicago Bulls in that final matchup for the 8th seed, they will win that game. But then they will get swept by the team they're playing tonight, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so for them, there really isn't such a great outcome for them to get very far.
Yeah.
And I never condone tanking. You have to really be a team that if you're going to be tanking like that, you shouldn't even be in the league, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
But these players, they don't know any better. So they're going to go out there and they're going to play their game and see what happens. I'm not impressed with this Miami Heat team. You're not impressed with this Miami Heat team. They're going to get trounced hopefully tonight. Cavaliers can win their 12th in a row would be a lovely thing. That's actually going to be kicking off soon, so I'm hoping to catch most of that game. It's an ESPN game. Following that will be your Thunder game. But
for sure,
these Heat, they're just underwhelmingly not fun to watch. And
I just want to put one more thing out there. Sorry, when you were talking about the tanking, it comes back to the city of Miami where you say, thankfully, Tua did not become the next Peyton Manning, Drew Brees type. Because he's good, but like if the tanking for Tua became where you got someone that was a Hall of Famer, undoubtable first ballot, that I think that a lot more teams would be doing it at that level. And I'm really happy that I mean he's had a good career, he's made his money, but I think that for the league's sake, him becoming I don't even want to say a face in the crowd because he's a top 12 quarterback in the league, and that's probably even underselling it. But just where if a team did that and they got Peyton Manning or they got Tom Brady or they got Drew Brees or whatever, one of those guys out of it, then a lot of teams would be doing that, and then the integrity of the game would be ruined. So I'm happy about that.
well, Josh just went from the NBA to the NFL real quick.
No,
I'm
no,
going to bring it
it was
back to the
about.
I'm going to bring it back to the NBA right now. We're going to talk about the team that's right above those Miami Heat, those Detroit Pistons, man, nitty
Yeah,
gritty Pistons, and they are led by a coach that I absolutely love. I think he's a great coach. JB Bickerstaff, former Cavs head coach, is leading that team into a really good spot here. They are the 6th seed. They are comfortably at the 6th seed, and they are rocking and rolling behind their superstar guard, Cade Cunningham. I think those Pistons have a really bright future. I don't think they're going to make it all too far this year. They might surprise a team like the Knicks in the first round if that's where things end up landing. But truly, those Pistons are looking good. And I think if they can build around that foundation of Cade with the solid coaching of JB Bickerstaff, because he's a defensive minded coach first, that team is going to be in the contention for a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference sooner than we think.
yeah. I mean, they're a real fun. Well, it all starts with Cade Cunningham. Let's start there. Where I'm a big supporter of Oklahoma State. I know you know why. Cade Cunningham was a stud there, number one pick. Continued to progress. All you needed to see from him going into this year was him become more efficient and more sure of himself in his game. And you could see with his 25 points per game and almost 10 assists a game that he is the leader of this team, which is exactly what they needed. Especially this was the year it needed to be because they don't have their first round draft pick. So for them to, I don't know if they traded it this year, but Whenever they decided that this was the year and they traded that pick, it was a good time. They have 2 seconds, but still, I think that they're the culture over there, the culture over there with Bickerstaff. It's clear that they feel believed in. They feel like the city's behind them. They handle the bad teams, which is something that you normally need a more veteran squad to be able to do. You look at it where they hang around with the good teams, and more often than not, they don't win those games. But generally, you don't see them embarrass themselves, and they will punch you in the mouth if you slip up for a second. And I do think a team like the Knicks is someone that could take them too lightly, as well as you look at the Pacers and the Bucks. They're in the division with them, and they're all with those records. They could really bounce. Those seeds could really bounce around, and I think that even the Celtics. I'm not saying they beat them in a series, but I think that that series would go longer than people would give the Pistons credit for. I would say Celtics in six, but I do think that they could take a couple games there.
Well, the Pistons are 9-1 over the last 10 games. They're dealing some high powered offense as well as some really good defense. And for them being over 500 over on the home at home and on the road pays off dividends because a team like the Bucks, they're not over 500 on the road. So if they get a matchup like that, it could be really an astounding matchup to see the Bucks lose in the first round to the Pistons. We'll head off from the Pistons and go to the team that they might potentially play in the first round if the season ends today, the Knicks, because we have a lot of Knicks fans up in New York, and I'm certain they want to hear a little bit about where their franchise is headed. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't be comfortable if I'm a Knicks fan. You have a really good superstar in Jalen Brunson and another really good one in Karl Anthony Towns and some really great role players, but you're lacking something that is vital and that the Lakers are also lacking. It's someone who's going to protect that rim. And unless Mitchell Robinson comes back healthier than ever and is going to give you exactly what you need, it's going to be a really, really difficult time for the Knicks to maneuver through the Eastern Conference. To be honest with you, I think if the Knicks played the Pistons right now, they will beat the Pistons. It'll probably go 6 games. But I think if they're going to end up playing a team like the Celtics or the Cavs, it's not going to be a pretty show for the Knicks. I mean, they just got blown out by 40 points by the Cavs recently, by another 38 points by the Celtics recently, back-to-back nights. So, as much as they're 40-21 and they have about a 4.5 game lead right now on the Bucks, being a 3 seed is all great, but if you don't make a deep enough run, you might as well be the Philadelphia 76ers who aren't going to make the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those teams that they're a good team and they're definitely a playoff team, but the conference being so weak has them a little inflated because there are teams that they're head and shoulders above in talent, and there are teams that they're parallel with that you might not have thought before the year that they're parallel with. But when you look at it, they definitely don't want the Pistons, they don't want the Celtics, they don't want the Cavs, and they need to finish the season strong want to if they want to get if they really want to interact with um not interact if they want to move on advance is the word I was looking for if they want to advance because their brand of basketball is not creative. It's not anything to I mean, if you're a Jalen Brunson fan, it's something to be excited about. But I feel like when you watch them, you're just waiting. If you're a Knicks fan, you're just waiting for them to slip up, and they've been doing a great job not slipping up. But it's always in the back of your mind because when the good teams come to town, they handle them in the Garden, and when they go on the road for them, they handle them too.
Except when they
But
play the Cavs or the Celtics or the Thunder because they cannot beat those
no,
teams. They are
no,
0-10 against those 3 teams, by the way.
I meant that those teams handle the Knicks. Sorry, but I think that it doesn't really matter who's in the playoff play in. I do think the Magic will be one of those teams, and they're a team that in the playoffs when mistakes are magnified. If the Magic play a clean game, they can. I don't even want to say make noise. They could just win a round, but then again, they'd have to go through Cleveland or Boston probably. So not necessarily saying that would happen, but if if the schedule is aligned that the Knicks could become a 2 seed, I think that that would actually become a problem for them because they'd be playing one of these teams that's hot, that's they're okay. Now we're a playoff team. We're gonna commit to it, and not saying that they'll lose, but you want to go into you want to go into your playoff series feeling good about yourself. And if they don't finish this year hot, these teams are gonna be ready for them. And I just think that the lack of creativity makes it that if you play them one time, they might stomp you. They might beat you if you're not a top team. But other than that, the good coaches are going to figure out very quickly what the Knicks are trying to do. And even though they won the Karl Anthony Towns trade, they seem complacent that now that he's there, that all they have to do now is just continue to mesh. And I don't think that title aspirations are something that should be. I don't really think anybody does, but when they're 9 games over 500 and they're 15 games over 500 against the East, and that's including losing every game to the Cavs and the Celtics. I think that that's an underlying stat that's very concerning, considering that you look at the other teams and their records are a little more balanced. Where yeah, maybe they lost a few more games in the East, but their record still stands strong and they're battle tested and they're ready to make noise and they're ready for the Knicks.
Knicks won't beat any of those teams in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. I mean, they will beat any of those teams in the Eastern Conference just because they are truly messes in that bottom half. Unless they have the Pistons where that can make some noise. Orlando has an offensive crisis. Atlanta has a defensive crisis. Miami has a superstar crisis, and the Bulls don't even want to be the 15th seed in the Eastern Conference. They want to
What
be
are we doing?
they want to be the 16th seed in the Eastern Conference. So I think those bottom 4 teams, the Knicks will win, but the rest of that Eastern Conference, they can definitely sleep on a team, and then they'll get all of a sudden the Pacers go in the Garden and beat them like they did last season. They're like in the same spot they were last season, where they're now losers again. So,
Yeah.
the Knicks, you need to get Mitch Robinson back at least. So see what happens when he's ready to go and how that team, meshes with their starting center for the last 20 games of the season.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
get off this NBA wave a little bit here. Breaking news, Jack Hughes. I know I was going to let you introduce this, but I kind of want to get a little
Yeah,
ball
go ahead.
rolling here. Jack Hughes is out for the season.
Yeah.
Devastating news for your Devils. I'll let you kind of give a little acknowledgement to this, and then we'll kind of get into our fan questions.
Yeah, so Jack's Jack's beloved in this house, in every house of what's on here. What is going on here? Jack's beloved in every Devils fan's house and in the Prudential Center, and a lot of people around the league like him. Besides maybe the Rangers fans, the Islanders fans, the division fans. But when you look at it, it's his skating is elite when he with his moves, but his edge work, he's always falling down, and I've always been saying that. And I don't know what exactly needs to be done to rectify that, but I think that's the only thing stopping him from being an MVP candidate is that he can't get out of his own way. I think he's doing he's doing incredible things for someone his age, and I think that when you look at the whole scope of it, the team's going to really hurt from this. But it is I don't want to say lucky because you'd rather have Jack, but it is lucky that this happened right before the trade deadline because we're going to throw him on LTIR, have 8.8 million extra in cap to be able to spend to get a guy in there, and I guess get a trial run. And Harry, how does this craziness sound? They're saying that Miko might not want to sign in Carolina, so the Devils are kicking the tires.
Well, if you get someone like him through the door, and then when Jack's ready to go, the Devils are going to be a team in the metropolitan area that are going to be tough to beat. And so, listen, it's up to your GM to make some moves happen here. This season might be a lost cause at this point for the Devils. You could tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like they're going to be hoping to get something good in the draft, and maybe get Miko as well, and make some
Yeah,
noise happen in the Prudential Center. So, speediest of recoveries as an Islanders fan. You never want to see the star players around the league ever go down like this. Maybe some Islanders fans and Rangers fans are happy, but I'm not, and I don't think this is a good thing for sports. So, speedy recovery. Hopefully he's ready for some point next season to help, the Devils make a run just for you being my good friend. I want to send you the well wishes, and hope that
I appreciate that.
your hockey team can rebound well from this. I'm certain they will. The Devils typically do rebound well. But, this was breaking news that just happened recently, and He's undergoing surgery, and we expect it to be a successful one. Knock on wood. Hope it's going to happen, and the Devils will be the Devils.
Yeah. Roll Devs.
Ben, what's going on, my man? Ben,
What's up, guys? How we doing?
how we doing?
What's up?
Long time no
How's it
chat.
going?
Long time no chat.
I know. I've been listening to you guys. You guys are cooking up in here. You guys got a storm cooking up.
We're talking a little sports here.
That's what I was gonna say. This is where I get all my sports news. So then, for my other podcasters, I can actually feel like I have some stuff to talk about.
That's the point.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to do. We want to express knowledge of the sporting world, and so when you say those things, it makes me feel much better that we're doing a half decent job over here at Beyond the Score podcast.
I was gonna say, you got to realize, there was one time, there's a couple of sports bettors that come in here. So there was one time, I think last week, can't remember what we were talking about, but I referenced you guys. I was like, yeah, they're like, oh wow, Ben, you know that? And I was like, I dabble a little bit.
Just everlasting encyclopedia over here at the Beyond the Score podcast of sports knowledge.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
So sounds wonderful, but we have some fan interaction, and we want you to do your thing here and introduce that fan question, and then we have another little fan comment that we're gonna get into.
Sure.
Awesome.
I'll be shocked who it's from.
All right. Well, guess what, guys? We got a fan question from. Drum roll, please. Matt.
Our number one viewer. Matt,
What's
you
up?
have officially been placed on the number one supporter/viewer list for the Beyond the Score
I
podcast.
was gonna say,
Congratulations.
Matt is the MVP of this show.
Matt will be coming on the show at one point or another. We will make sure to bring him on here so
Very
that the
soon.
rest of the world can put a face to the man that asks all the questions.
Yes, I'm very curious. So Matt asks, I guess Matt says, love the shout out, gents. My question this week is, do you guys think the MLB ruins their viewership with blackout restrictions? It's very frustrating that they can't watch the Yankees in New York, but can in any other state, minus the team they're playing.
So
Good
just to
question.
clarify here, the blackout restrictions happen in any sport. Is if you are, let's say, in the state of New York and there's a national game on, you wouldn't be able to watch that team play. And it does stink. It's unfortunate. I deal with that. Let's say today with the Cavs playing the Heat, I wouldn't be able to watch that game because they're playing in Miami unless I had cable or unless I was at the stadium and watching the game itself. So
I think Miami's a bad example for you.
why?
You don't get Heat games?
Well, I get Heat games, but this is actually a national game. It's on ESPN, so I'm going to be able to watch it tonight. But if it was a game that wasn't a national game, I would not be able to watch this game. No.
Interesting. I was just saying because I know you always introduce yourself with sunny South Florida, so I didn't want people to get confused with you saying the Heat, but you don't even get those games, which is kind of crazy.
Well, that's what I'm trying to clarify here. Is it happens throughout all the sports. It's the games that you're in New York and you can't watch the Yankee games. Why is that? It's because they're on national TV. They don't want you to watch it unless you have cable.
Yeah.
And so these cable companies are the reasons why these blackout restrictions happen. And then we're sitting here trying to watch our favorite teams and we can't watch it. And so I don't know if it's an MLB thing or maybe one of their licensing agreements with these cable companies that definitely needs to be looked into because it stinks, but it probably has been looked into, and they probably said, no, we're not going to allow this because if you want to watch New York Yankees in New York, you have to have cable like Verizon, Fios, or Optimum, or whatever the cable providers are over there to be able to watch it, or you got to have the Yes Network or whatever it is to be able to watch your teams play. So it's a money thing. Everything comes down to money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the way the MLB works and that's the way the world works. But it stinks. It makes it difficult for us fans to want to watch certain games when they're playing. And we have to makes us then the problem here is that the fans, when they can't get it, they're going to go down these illegal websites and they're going to try to download these these players that will play the live games, and they're getting viruses on their computers and they're messing things up. But at the same time, they're still watching it too. They're still getting a link that's going to allow them to watch it. So you might as well figure out something that's going to allow them to watch it legally.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there could be more money made overall for the money mindset that they have. But when it comes down to it, the the logic behind it when it first started, I'm sure, is that the vast majority of a team's fans are in the area, which is practical. But you have to realize that we're in a landscape where fans are all over the place and people travel and people just want to watch their teams. So whether they I know that the regional sports networks went bankrupt and now there's a FanDuel sports network for a bunch of different teams. I'm not sure if that's going to remain regional or if that one network is going to cover a lot of the different teams, but it would be cool to see something like that become successful. And if that becomes successful, then every other team might just say, "Oh, okay, why don't we maybe play our games on our regional sports network and then also give them to th- this network where everyone could see, and then the money is paid from what the plans are that you pay for your provider instead of having to have seven different apps for seven different teams. Or if you really like soccer, for example, you have to buy Apple TV Plus and then buy MLS season pass just for the American soccer. And then that's just an example for how it goes to another level where when you have multiple leagues, when you look at like the Champions Leagues on Paramount Plus, the Spanish and German leagues are on ESPN Plus, so they're just all over the place.
It's all
So
licensing. Everyone has
that's a
different
level that I
licensing.
think that exactly, but it should just I just think that there's got to be some sort of, whether it's like an Apple TV like device that just organizes it all, lets you pick your favorite teams.
I get what you're
You
saying. It's
could
like a
pay
perfect world
your
scenario for all sports. Anything
yeah,
that you want to watch, as long as you have the subscription and you're paying for it, here's a platform to be able to do it. Great idea,
yeah,
but I think the problem becomes with the licensing itself. It's like, well,
yeah,
MLB has licensing with, I don't know, Apple TV, and then hockey has licensing with ESPN. And so,
yeah,
how does that play into effect when it comes to the licensing and porting everything?
right,
I'm not saying it's
right,
impossible, but it's something that maybe could be figured out if all these companies that have the licensing with all these different leagues are willing to sit down at the table and make all their consumers happy. The truth is, they don't really give a crap about us. They don't give a crap about consumers. They give a crap about money. And whatever makes sense for them that they're going to do that still borderline gets the job done while also being profitable for them, that's what they do. And it stinks. But maybe there's a solution where somebody comes in and says, I'm going to revamp the whole sports world, like a guy like Michael Rubin, which he's done in the sports card world, buying Fanatics and
hmm
kind of taking everything under one wing. Maybe something like that happens. I don't know if it's going to happen in something like this. It's a much bigger aspect when you come to televised stuff, live games.
a lot more people that you'd piss off too.
Of course, I mean the big banks, the big money, all these TV companies, and every single person involved would probably want a slice or would have a say in whether or not this would actually work or not. So,
Yeah,
Matt, great question because it is a struggle for a lot of people who want to watch their teams in their states and they can. They're trying to figure out what they're going to be able to do, and there's no avenue. It's like football too. You gotta, just like you said with the MLS for soccer, you got to go through YouTube TV, and then you get the Sunday ticket package through YouTube TV. So it's like I have to get all these different things. They originally was just from direct TV. You get it now. It's even more complicated and more expensive, but you're making it easier for people to get it at least. And so it's really not making anything
yeah.
better for anyone.
And then if you don't want it, you don't get it, but at least the option's there.
Right, exactly. So um, hopefully they make the realization that it might be easier and probably would be more money involved if they made something that really someone would say, I can click a button. Here's MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLS, European soccer, whatever it is, and just
You can even have different sections to include
right.
like what you want. Like if you're not a soccer fan, you uncheck the soccer and
Bundles,
your
whatever
price
it
goes
is.
down.
Right. You could bundle. You could do one specific. You just want NBA, you get just NBA. You want NBA and you want the NHL. Well, here's a bundle. You want the NHL and the MLB and the NBA and the NFL and everything. Here's the total. But all these things. So
Yeah.
if there's a will, there's a way. So we'll have to see if somebody wants to be smart enough to put this together. And if they do, Matt, congratulations, you're a wizard because it would be a brilliant idea, and I think it'll probably stem through our podcast. So maybe try to figure out that idea and put it together yourself. You seem
Yeah.
like a smart man. But one more
We'll be
thing,
happy to commentate any games you need.
we wanted to do is our fan interaction here. We're going to do something here where we actually had a comment instead of a question, and it wasn't really related to a specific thing, but it was for what we talked about before, that jersey behind you, Josh,
Yeah.
it's a special one. Now,
It's super
I
special.
will say here, this is going to be a very important thing to talk about. Unfortunately, we don't have the time on this episode to do it. So we will be doing it on the next episode where we will give it the time that it needs to refer. And Jay Cluck, this will be specifically for you because I know that you commented you wanted to see this be talked about. So next week, stay tuned. This will be one of the main points of our next week's episode. We will be talking about that special jersey that is behind Josh. And on
let
that,
that show you. Sorry,
yeah.
let that show you that you comment and a week, 10 days, 2 weeks go by. We don't put it by the wayside. We try to make sure we can get everything in there. And if it loses relevancy, then unfortunately we let it go. But if it's something that like that where you have a comment that you bring up something that we said that doesn't really have a time in terms of like let's say the question was about the Super Bowl and then the Super Bowl passed by and then you can't really go back to predicting the Super Bowl when you already have the winner. That's cheating. But something like this where this it's cool, it's special, and it's something that I appreciate that you care to hear my story, and I'm excited to tell you. And Ben doesn't know, so I'm excited to get a candid reaction from him too.
I think Ben will like that story. It's a
Yeah,
special one. I'm excited to rehear it as well on my end here. And
Ben was like, "Yes."
yeah, it's
I've been
a
I've been
great
curious.
it really is it's a beautiful story, and I'm excited for the world to be able to hear this too, and everyone to be able to watch this and see how important that was. But
Yeah, for
on
sure.
that note, I want to thank you all. Thank you all for being very patient over the last couple of weeks we were away and staying strong with us and on Instagram, on social media, following along, asking questions, calling us crazy, calling us amazing, thanking us for being out there. And we wanted to thank you guys for giving us all the support. We love you guys and appreciate you guys very much. And we wouldn't be here without you guys. And you know where to find us on those social media platforms, Instagram and X. And what else can they find us on, Josh? You know better than I do.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And you want to run your 60 seconds really fast, or you want to do that next time?
Let's do our 60 seconds real quick. Let's go run right now. Boom, boom, pass, 60 seconds, one worders. How can we forget that's one of the most important parts of our new segments? Let's go.
Nico Harrison,
Fool.
Victor Wembanyama's injury,
Unfortunate.
the Giants' 2025 starting quarterback.
Crickets.
Jesus Luzardo allowing 3 home runs on 3 straight pitches yesterday while his manager was being interviewed on the broadcast.
Triple A.
um, Leclerc calling Ferrari the coolest team.
Correct.
Jason Dominguez's first spring home run.
Martian.
Sam Darnold's next contract.
Overwhelmingly expensive. That's 2 words.
That counts though. Debo Samuel joining your division.
Be careful. That's 2 words too.
I thought your word was going to be meh. DK Metcalf's trade request.
Giants.
And last but not least, Gunnar Henderson's spring injury.
Shambles.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Thank you guys again. Had to get that in there. Let's not forget our number one part of our show, our famous yogiisms. We're doing a recap on some of them. I want Josh to rate some of these yogiisms that we've done in the past. This week's yogiism is we made too many wrong mistakes.
I don't remember that one. That one's pretty good. I think I gave the other one an 8. I think it goes with the 8s.
Okay. Ben, what do you think?
Is-
I want to hear how do you like that one?
I like it. I'll give it a 7.5, 7.4.
Okay. It's
7-4.
acceptable. It's like a C plus B minus range.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
guys again for tuning into a special episode here at Beyond the Score podcast. We will see you guys next week.